Welcome back to the Sibling Group Chat. I'm Owen.
And I'm Cassidy.
And today we're back at it with the Odyssey review, episode 14, Missed It by That Much.
Yes, this episode originally aired on February 20th, 1988, and it is a part of the Officer Harley collection. In this episode, middle schooler Rachel Weaver is late for everything, but when Connie threatens to kick her off the volleyball team, Rachel tries her very best to be on time. Our themes are time management and tardiness.
Yes, and this episode was a little interesting to listen to, I feel like, because they did repurpose this episode and didn't change a whole lot, so we've listened to their renewed version a lot of times, so it's kind of weird to listen to it in its old form.
Yeah, so this episode, like we said, was later redone. They just, basically all they did was take out Officer Harley and then redo it word for word, just changing the girl. So the episode that's later redone as is episode 119, Better Late Than Never. And in that episode, the main character is Robin Jacobs. Mm-hmm. But yeah, as I was listening to this, I was almost treating it more as like a comparison to the later episode than like a proper review. So if there's notes in my gaps for those listening because you haven't heard it before, I apologize. But I was treating it more as a comparison than a recap.
Yeah, I totally understand that approach to it. Like, even the beginning, Chris, like, there was the beginning little, like, thing with a guy who was late for his boat or whatever. That was new. We never heard that before. Yeah. He was supposed to be going on a cruise, and he missed it because he was late. But then Chris goes into her little intro, and she talks about all these words for being late, which is exactly the same. And then she talks about a disciple who was late for a meeting with the disciples, and so he didn't believe that Jesus had risen. Like, it was at this point that I realized that they didn't change hardly anything, and the episode hasn't even been started yet.
Yeah, I like even like when she's listing all these things we can be late for. She even says, "You've been late for our trip to Odyssey," which that is repeated in the later episode as well. So I liked that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just before we hop into the actual episode, I just want to point out, I don't remember if we ever have Rachel Weaver in an episode again, but her name is mentioned at least a couple more times.
When is her name mentioned?
I don't know. I just know that Rachel Weaver exists at other times.
Well, is that the name of the girl in the Silver Streak?
No. That'd be Tracy.
No, like the girl who breaks it.
No, that's not her. I don't know. I'm positive she's in other episodes, though, at least mentioned.
Well, maybe. I guess we'll find out as we go on. But we have listened to a bonus feature of this episode before, so that I know you've heard the name there.
No, I'm positive that her name is mentioned in at least one other episode. I don't know what it is, but I'm positive.
Well, I guess we'll find out as we keep going, folks.
Anyway, so the episode starts off with a bunch of kids at Wits End who are waiting. They're going on a group outing to go roller skating, apparently chaperoned by Connie, so I'm a little confused already at that point. I'd never thought about that before. But
well, if you think about it, when the later episode, by that point in time, Connie is a Christian. She's been more established in the community, so it makes more sense later on for her to be taking kids roller skating and to be coaching volleyball. It doesn't really make sense yet at this point in Odyssey.
I was noticing that too. I was thinking, like, in later times it makes sense, but where it's at with this current one, it didn't make sense.
No. And we don't even know what kind of a group of kids she was taking, like if it's just totally random kids. Like, I feel like later, it's a church group, but maybe that's just me making that up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I felt like it was weird for Connie to be taking kids roller skating at this point in Odyssey.
I thought so too. But as they're waiting, Officer Harley comes in and is asking about why all the kids are there. He asks if they're having some kind of, what does he say? He said some kind of rally. I don't remember what the word he used was.
I don't remember either.
But Connie says that they're all going to go roller skating, to which Officer Harley is again confused because he's confused why they're roller skating at Wit's End. And then he goes over to Wit and he's like, "Wit, I need to see your roller skating license." And Wit obviously doesn't have one. And so then Officer Harley's like, "Well, it can be awful dangerous for all these kids to be roller skating here if you don't have a roller skating license." and this is really the only part that I noticed that they took out or changed at all. Like, this part just didn't exist in the second iteration of the
Yeah.
episode.
Except for a line here or there, yeah, it was just they just totally cut this Officer Harley part out, which begs the question, couldn't they have just left this episode and cut that scene and just never
Yeah,
just keep airing it like this, but cut out the scene?
yeah. It's not even like Officer Harley was in it again. It was just this little section at the beginning.
Yeah. I don't even think you would have to rework this scene. I think you'd just have to cut out his talking to Wit and it would be fine.
Uh huh.
But to each their own. I like the later episode just as well, so.
Yeah, I mean, I like them both. But yeah, Officer Harley then says, after figuring out that they're actually going somewhere else, he's like, "Well, if they don't hurry up, then you're going to need a permit for some. I don't know what he said. Something with assembly.
Unlawful assembly? Or
Maybe
lawful assembly? Something like that?
something weird that I'm not even sure exists. But
Yeah.
so then Whit asks Connie what the holdup is, and she said it's Rachel, who's late for everything. And so they have a little conversation about her being late for everything, and then Connie decides that they just have to leave without her. She tells Whit to tell Rachel that if Rachel shows up, that if she's late for the volleyball tournament the next day, then she'll be off the team.
Yep.
So then Rachel shows up at about 5:45 and finds nobody there, and she says it wasn't her fault. And she says it wasn't her fault. Well, maybe a little, and then she says, "Okay, a lot." Rachel doesn't know what she's going to do now, and Whit tells her that she needs to be more punctual. Rachel responds, "It's not being punctual I have a problem with, it's being on time that kills me."
Yeah. That's what that means, Rachel.
Yeah, so...
One difference I did note here is I feel like in the later episode, Robin, actually starts giving reasons of why she was late. Like, she had to wait for her hair to dry or something like that. Whereas Rachel's just like, I wasn't my fault.
Yeah. Yeah, that is different. I didn't note that, but I did remember noticing that. But then Rachel says she doesn't know what she's going to do since she doesn't go roller skating, and Whit says, "Well, you could go skate in the back, but I don't have a license," which was kind of corny, but it was a little bit funny. That's something that they had to cut out, obviously, because it was set up by the Officer Harley section.
Yeah. It was a funny little callback.
Yeah. Then, so she decides to go home, and before she leaves, Whit warns her that if she's late for the volleyball tournament the next day, then she'll be off the team. So Rachel goes home to find her dad in the kitchen. Well, she didn't go home to find her dad. She goes home, and her dad is in the kitchen.
Yeah, which, before you keep going, I just want to point out some voice actor nerding out here for you. So, the voice of Rachel's dad here is Chuck Bolte, who later voices George Barkley. Which is funny because later, when it's Robin's voice actor is the daughter of Chuck Bolte. So it was just some funny ties together that the nerdy side of me appreciated.
Yeah, and I noted that the George Barkley voice kind of just gave a different spin to what the dad said. Like, everything was the same, but it was just...
But I felt like George Barkley was saying it instead of Dale Jacobs.
Right,
and in reality, neither one of them was saying it, but in my mind, that's what was happening.
Yeah. So he was looking for something to eat in the kitchen. Apparently their mom... Where was their mom? Not their mom. Where was Rachel's mom?
Shopping or at a ladies' meeting or something. I don't know.
Something. She's not there, so her dad says that they're on their own. And so he's going through the freezer looking for something to eat. So he goes through chicken pot pie, turkey pot pie, and then the all-new meatloaf pot pie. I just feel like, and maybe it's because I've heard the other episode so many times, he didn't have about as good a delivery with the meatloaf pot pie.
No, because he didn't question it, did he? Didn't he just say it? I don't remember for sure, but the later one, they go, meatloaf pot pie. Meatloaf pot pie? And he didn't say the half a bowling ball. He said, "What's this black thing?" But he didn't say, "Looks like half a bowling ball."
I noted that too. I said, "No half a bowling ball" line.
I don't know. It was so sad. But I guess to make up. I mean, this one we got the I don't have a license, so we needed some funny lines to balance out.
Yeah. But actually, I think I might have skipped before they go through, or maybe not. Either before or right after they go through the whole pot pie, her dad realizes that she wasn't supposed to be home.
Yeah.
He's like, wait, weren't you going to be skating? And she's like, I decided not to go. To which he apparently finds is really funny. I think in the later episode, her dad says something about, like, but you love roller skating or something like that. But then he basically guesses / pretty quickly figured out that she didn't go because she was late and they left without her.
Yeah.
So then they have a conversation about being late, and her dad tells Rachel, like, you need to be more, to which Rachel interrupts and says, I know, punctuated. Mr. Whitaker already talked about it. Like, the word is punctual.
That too.
Uh-huh. So then she tells her dad that that her mom is late for a lot of things. She says she's fashionably late, and her dad says there's no such thing as fashionably late. And that about sums up that conversation. Rachel goes to watch TV because she's no longer hungry after her dad pulls something out of the freezer and says, what is this black thing?
Yeah. You know what would have been funny, since we didn't get the bowling ball line, would be if we had found out what the black thing is. We still don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as she's watching TV, Rachel falls asleep, and then she has a dream. Actually, before she has a dream, her parents find her asleep, and they argue about whether or not they need to wake her up and send her to bed. They ended up determining that she's going to stay in bed, or stay on the couch and sleep.
Mm-hmm. Can I just say, before we even start discussing this dream, it's almost, if not word for word, scene for scene, the same as the later dream, but it felt way creepier to me. Did you feel that?
You know, I really didn't. I noticed that it was the same, but I didn't think it was any weirder. I think some of the background music was a little more ominous.
Yeah. I don't know. I just felt like, I was like, this is the same dream, but for some reason it was feeling creepier to me than how it is later. But I guess that was just me.
Yeah, I think that was just you. But I did notice, I've never really thought about this before, but in her dream, it's like she almost dreams a documentary about herself being late, almost.
Yeah.
But the guy who starts her dream says that she's entering the Twilight Zone, which I think is the only time we hear this outside of when they end up using it as a kids' radio thing.
Yeah. So one of the writers had this great idea of the Twilight Zone, and he just couldn't let it rest.
Yeah, like eventually they found a permanent use for it, but I think this is like I don't know if they just recycled the idea or if they were just trying to figure out where it would work.
Yeah, I don't know. Another thing about this being like a documentary is there's a guy like reporting it, and it's voiced by the voice is Phil Lawler, who later voices Dale Jacobs, who is Robin's dad, so he's in the later one. But I was trying to remember, does he voice the reporter in Robin's dream later on?
Yeah, I think he does. I was pretty sure
that's
that
what I was thinking too. Yeah, but I was like, where's Phil Lawler?
Yeah. So yeah, the first scene of her dream is her being late for school. And since she's late, she's told she has to come into school for every Saturday for the rest of her life.
And it didn't echo. There was other echoing there, but it didn't echo there, and I was so sad.
Yeah, there was echo in the dream because she still said the line, why do things always echo in dreams?
Yeah, but we didn't get the echo for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life. Yeah. That was sad.
And then the next scene, she's late for cheerleading, and the football team lost, apparently because she didn't show up to cheerlead. Throughout the whole
I don't think I've ever heard about Odyssey football, so maybe they're just not good at football.
Don't they say football, though?
They do. I'm just saying, can you ever think of a time that there's a kid in Odyssey playing football in real life?
Yeah. So throughout the whole dream, in each scene, she's wearing pajamas, by the way, so multiple people in her dream comment on that fact.
Yep.
And so then her next scene, she's late to lunch, so she has to do all the dishes. Next, she calls out. She calls out for help when she's doing the dishes to her parents, but they can't help because it's too late. Then her dream shifts from dreaming things that could happen, not could happen, but like scenes that would be more like her being the same age to like future being late, where she's late for stuff that's like really important in the future.
Mm-hmm.
She dreams about missing. First, it's like a Miss America pageant, something kind of thing that she won, but then she didn't show up, or she was late, so they gave it to somebody else. Then she dreams her wedding, but she was late, and so the guy married somebody else. Like, I mean, weird dream, but I would hope that wouldn't happen even if she was late.
One would hope.
Yeah. Then she's late for a movie rehearsal. She could have been a star, but she didn't. Then she sees her dad, who's like super old, and you're like, "What happened to you?" He's like, "We were waiting for you to get ready for church." And then she asks where her mom is. Her mom, it is insinuated in the dream either died or just left because she was tired of waiting. But regardless,
I feel like she died because I mean he just says she got tired of waiting, but I feel like she died.
Yeah. This is where we get the she was tired of waiting.
Tired of waiting.
Yes. So then finally Rachel is somehow late for her own funeral in the dream. And then we return to her documentary narrator guy who's talking about how she's trapped in the twilight zone of her dream, which at the beginning of the dream, when he calls it the Twilight Zone, Rachel says she doesn't like the name, and so she tells her that since it's her dream, she can rename it. Well, at the end of the dream, he says, "Did you come up with a better name, kid?" She's like, "No, I didn't have time." But yeah, so she's apparently trapped in her dream. She finally wakes up, and
the guy tells her just wake up.
Yeah. She doesn't oversleep, which is key because it's the next day. She has a volleyball tournament. And she apparently, as mentioned in her dream, usually does oversleep or sleeps very late on Saturdays. Well, she didn't sleep very late this Saturday, so she should have plenty of time to make the volleyball tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes up to wake her parents to take her to the volleyball game, and her mom doesn't want to get up. She's like concerned, like, "Why are you waking us up this early on Saturday morning?" And honestly, I didn't remember noticing this when I listened to the episode before. Her mom is kind of a jerk in this scene. Like, she's like, "Oh, that's fine. You can get kicked off the volleyball team, whatever."
Yeah, well, I feel like the difference here is that the mom seems like awake enough to like really be meaning what she's saying. I feel like when they do it later, it feel like the mom feels more half asleep, like she's not really conscious of what she's saying. But I was thinking that too. Throughout all of this, like obviously kids need to learn to be on time, but as a kid, their parents should still be helping them be on time for some things. So that her parents weren't concerned about getting her to the volleyball game or didn't even seem aware of the volleyball game just seemed a little weird to me. Like I get the point that we're trying to show in this story, like that Rachel needs to be on time, but realistically, her parents need to be helping her out here some too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed that too. And her dad does help her. Like, he knew about it, but they obviously weren't concerned about making sure she was awake on time.
No.
But her dad does get up and he's going to take her to the volleyball game. He says, "I'd like to see you play." It's like, he says that as if he's never seen her play before.
Yeah, which leads me to believe I don't think Rachel is the only one who has a problem with timeliness in this family.
That's what I was thinking. Like, clearly, I'm not sure about the dad, but clearly you have the mom, and at least here seems at least the dad. None of them are on time for anything, it seems like.
No.
Nor are they.
I don't know. I don't know why Rachel's given such a hard time when it seems like it's just a family trait.
Yeah, and it also seems like none of them are overly aware of what the others are supposed to be on time for.
No, I'm shocked the dad even knew where the mom was the night before.
Yeah. So they get out, they get to the car, and the car won't start. It's a problem that apparently has been going on for a while. The dad says he should have taken it in, but he hasn't. So Rachel gets out to ride her bike to the game, which it doesn't say, but it indicates that she got pretty far on her bike before her tire goes flat.
Mm-hmm.
So then she gets off and runs. She says she'll hop a fence into a backyard and then she'll take I think she says through the woods.
Mm-hmm.
But she gets slowed down by, I don't remember the name of the family. I did remember it's different than in the other episode, but I don't remember the family name in either episode, actually.
Me neither. I did know, like, there's scary dog noises, which is the same in the later one. But in the later one, I think she just says, "Oh, I didn't know so-and-so got a dog." But in this one, she goes, "I didn't know they got a poodle." Like, it's funny because it's, like, really loud. Like, it sounds like a big dog. And then she goes, "I didn't know they got a poodle."
Yeah, I noted that too. It's like, they definitely not a poodle in
No.
the original. Or, not in the original, this is the original. In the redone version. And that almost made it funnier. It's like, she got slowed down by a poodle.
Yeah, but it's funny that it's a poodle, but the noises definitely weren't poodle noises, I don't
They
think.
absolutely weren't. My notes auto-corrected poodle to puddles, by the way, so apparently she got slowed down by a puddle.
You've got a bit of a 101 Dalmatians situation going on here.
Yeah. So after making it through the backyard, she did lose at least part of her sock to the dog. She hops the fence, is running through the woods, and then falls into a creek. And in the creek, I get one of my favorite lines from this episode that I'm glad didn't change. Is, what a dumb place to put a creek.
Yeah. That one is funny.
But then she gets out, she makes it up to the road to the school, where she meets Mr. Whitaker, who's probably, I assume, going to the volleyball game.
I don't know.
Well, she says it's the road to the school as if it's like, that's the only place it goes.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like I didn't really get the impression that's where he was going, but she sure could have been.
I don't know. In my mind, this scene has always been like, the school is like a little bit outside of town, and there's like this road that goes to the school, and that's like the only place it goes. But I could be wrong. But anyway, Mr. Whitaker tells her to get in and he'll take her, but his car wouldn't start, making very similar noises to the family car that wouldn't start earlier. And then...
It's actually a truck, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. Well, yeah, it must have been, yeah.
Because his bike is in the back. I think it's the only time Mr. Whitaker ever has a truck.
Well, I feel like it's the only time we ever hear Mr. Whitaker driving his own personal vehicle.
No, it's not. There's a whole episode about when he gets pulled over for speeding.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he also does take a car up to the Destructo Cave with Lawrence in one episode.
Yeah, he definitely has a car.
Yeah. It could have been... Wits End does have a truck, though, so...
True.
Maybe
From time to time.
Yeah,
when it's necessary for the plot.
Maybe he was taking the truck to get his bike fixed.
That is what he says. Or at least that's what he says in the later one. I can't remember what he said in this episode.
Well, but like I'm saying, if the bike wouldn't fit in his car, maybe he took Wits End's truck so he could take his bike.
Oh. Yeah, that makes sense. I think we've delved out this detail long enough.
I think so. What kind of bike do you think? Was it a 10-speed mountain bike or something? Like,
I couldn't quite tell from how they were talking about it, the sounds. I don't know.
Did it have 2 brakes? Did it have training wheels?
Mr. Whitaker would have like a nice 10-speed bike.
Anyway, enough about Mr. Whitaker's bike. That's where we leave Rachel. After Mr. Whitaker's vehicle won't start, the next place we are is at the volleyball tournament, which is getting ready to start, and we find Connie, assuming that since it's about to start, Rachel isn't going to show up. But just in the nick of time, Rachel shows up. As she's walking, there's like squishy sounds. I don't know how to describe it, but it indicates that she's still wet from falling into the creek.
Yeah.
But her presence is pointed out to Connie by a voice that sure sounds like a boy.
That's what I thought too. I was like, is this co-ed?
Yeah. Like in the redone version, it's definitely a girl. Like I feel like it's I don't know. But in this one, the voice was definitely a boy. Like, was this like the team manager or something? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, it caught me off guard too. It sure could have just been like a guy in the stands or something. Like, it doesn't need to be weird, but it did catch me off guard too.
Yeah, I was, yeah. And then after that, we don't get to hear about the games because then they're at wit's end and celebrating, and Rachel's telling Connie the story of how she got to the game on time. And then Rachel's dad shows up at wit's end. He finally got the car to start, and they told him at the school that they were at wit's end, which I don't know why the school would have known that that's where the entire team went, but
Because where does anyone who wins anything in Odyssey go but to wit's end?
they didn't win.
Oh. Where does anyone who participates in anything in Odyssey go but to wit's end?
Yeah, I guess. They go to wit's end to celebrate, not because they won, but because Rachel made it on time. And her dad says he's very proud of her. And then Rachel jokingly tells her dad that he should show up on time next game.
Which she's joking, but in all fairness, I think that's a legitimate concern here.
Well, at least in this case, he would have been on time if it weren't for his car.
That's true. It wasn't his fault.
Yeah. But so that concludes the episode. Chris concludes by talking about doubting Thomas, who I get the point that they're making. I just want to point out, I don't think the Bible indicates that Thomas was late for this meeting, that he didn't get to see the risen Jesus. I think he just
wasn't there.
Yeah, like he wasn't there. It wasn't like he got waylaid because they were doing dirt work on the road on the way there, or he broke a strap on his sandal. He just wasn't going.
If he had been late, John would have written it down.
Oh, for sure. Like, it would have been in one of the 4 Gospels, right?
It would have been like, the disciple Jesus loved was there on time, and then everyone showed up, except for Thomas.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never got the impression that he was late, that he wasn't there.
Yeah. But whatever, the point is made. This isn't the first time that Chris's biblical example is slightly off.
Yeah. She suggests a few ways of planning ahead so that you don't have to be late for things. And then that about concludes the episode. Any thoughts?
Not really, because again, I just kind of felt like I was listening to a different version of an episode I've heard before. But this is definitely a case of removing the episode only because of Officer Harley, because they later completely redid the episode, so they had zero problem with the episode except for Officer Harley.
I wouldn't even say they completely redid the episode. I would say they barely redid the episode.
Yeah. Well, it's completely redone in that they had to totally re-record it because they used different characters. But they didn't really redo the script any. Yeah,
different voices and everything, but yeah, the episode itself is almost identical.
Yeah. I just randomly had this thought, because, we were sad that the half a bowling ball line wasn't in here, but as we've said, the script seems mostly the same. Which leads me to question, was the half a bowling ball line ad-lib?
It sure could have been. Like, I was kind of thinking that when we were talking about it earlier. I kind of feel like it probably was.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, a good episode. I feel like I've heard it before.
Yeah, it was weird for me because I knew what was happening. I kept waiting for there to be some major difference, and there never was.
Yeah. I kind of honestly at the end stopped paying attention, so they could have completely changed the ending, and I don't think I would have noticed.
It wasn't any different. But yeah, I guess that about sums it up for this episode. What's next?
Next week is not an Officer Harley episode, but it is a Lost episode. It's called My Brother's Keeper. And I didn't fully read the description, but just by glancing at it, I think this might be similar to when Donna imagines that Jimmy was never born. But we'll have to see next week. But, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, until next week, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at the Sibling Group Chat. Subscribe wherever you're listening or watching on Spotify or YouTube. And, yeah. Oh, I didn't explain this last time. As you can see, I'm not in my normal spot. I'm in the process of moving. So hopefully in the next week or so, I'll have a new setup that's not just a weird part of our basement. But, yeah. Any comments that we want them to comment this time?
No, don't think so. I was just going to note, as you may have noticed, I'm actually in the exact same place I've been every other time. So.
Yes, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
All right, well, see you next time. Bye.
See ya.